I have been advising candidates with their Amazon interviews for over 8 years, and I wanted to share with you some tips if you're applying for the first time. Amazon rewards candidates who prep their job interviews. And some might say, okay, then, but isn't this with any company? Basically, it shows if you prepare your job interview, it shows if you prepare your introductory statement and all that stuff. No, that's not what I mean. Actually, by preparing Amazon interviews, I mean spending time specifically to prepare their leadership principles, to prepare for a behavioral interview, and to prepare, those star answers. This is how you earn your interviewer's trust in Amazon interviews. Now, if you think in statistics, around 80% of candidates don't prepare an interview at all, regardless if it's with Amazon or any other company. So you can easily understand how most interviews or most Amazon loops are over even before they begin. Of course, there's notable exception if you're a genius candidate, but that, I guess, goes without saying. Next, I'd like to talk about a very interesting dilemma. Over the years, I come across candidates who have the interview questions in advance. In other words, they know the questions they're going to get asked, even word for word, by the way. And yet still, these candidates do not always pass their interviews. So basically what I'm saying here is that in a behavioral interview, even if you know the questions in advance, you're not guaranteed to pass it. And it's quite common that I do a dozen coaching sessions, even with candidates who know the questions in advance, simply because in order to exhibit high standards in the type of work you do, you must practice a lot and you must really tune up your behavioral interviewing skills. Basically, it's about preparing a story bank and role-playing them as much as possible. Okay, so insisting on the highest standards is something that will significantly improve your chances to pass these job interviews. If you want, a trick question here would be, tell me about the time when a product, service, or solution was already receiving good customer feedback, but you decided to do more. Yes, you may call this customer obsession, but what they're actually interested in would be to see on whether you provide with a fix for the customer or you provide with some innovative solution. You look around the corner and wow your customer, which would qualify as high standards in your work. And the last thing I want to talk about here just quickly is that most of the time, and traditionally speaking, when you prepare for a job interview for the first time with a company, you would be tempted to look online for information about their job interviews. Traditionally, we used to be in an era of information scarcity. In other words, it was hard to find the types of questions you can expect in Amazon interviews. It was hard to find any other information such as how many interviews can you expect and these sort of things. Nowadays, and especially with Amazon, we live in an era of information overload. In other words, there's too much content about Amazon interviews online and using AI and whatnot. And what happens here is that being able to deal with these ambiguous information and ambiguous situations and to make the right decisions, right calls with respect to what type of information is accurate and what type of information is the most accurate to take to prepare for your Amazon interview is critically important and a main inflection point for most candidates these days. Great leaders and great candidates are right a lot. A few common traps, contemporary traps in Amazon interviews, starting from the basic ones, the AI reward answers that would disqualify you without even you noticing it, or relying on AI to advise you on the leadership principles and the possible questions. It will quickly hallucinate unless that AI is tuned up properly, stuff like that. So there's a ton of information out there about Amazon's interviews and not a lot of time for you as a candidate to prepare all that stuff. So being able to deal with these ambiguous situations is also critically important. I hope you found this insight useful and thank you very much for watching.